You ever been inside a burning tank? The smell stays with you. Steel and cordite and cooking meat. Sometimes I can't tell if I'm smelling my breakfast or smelling Sergeant Williams dying in the driver's seat. My name is Michael Torres, Corporal, 3rd Armored Division, 32nd Armored Regiment. I was the gunner on a Sherman tank we called Mama's Boy, because our driver, Johnny Martinez from El Paso, had his mother's picture taped to the inside of his hatch. Thought it would keep us safe. It didn't. I grew up in San Antonio, Texas. Dad worked the railroads. Mom cleaned houses. I was supposed to go to college, first one in my family. Had a scholarship to Texas A&M, everything set up. Then Pearl Harbor happened, and suddenly college didn't matter anymore. Everyone was enlisting. Everyone wanted to fight. I signed up in January 42. 18 years old, full of piss and vinegar, thought I was going to single-handedly win the war. They put me in armor because I was good with machines, good with my hands. Sent me to Fort Knox for training. That's where I learned that a Sherman tank is a death trap on tracks. 33 tons of steel that the Germans called Tommy Cookers because of how fast they burned when hit. The M4 Sherman, American engineering at its finest. Fast, reliable, easy to maintain. Also undergunned, under-armored, and filled with gasoline that turned into a fireball the second a German shell punched through the hull. Our 75-millimeter gun could barely scratch a Panther from the front. Forget about a Tiger. You had to flank them, hit them in the side or rear where the armor was thinner. That meant getting close. That meant exposing yourself. That meant watching other Shermans brew up while you prayed your tank wouldn't be next. They trained us for 6 months. Gunnery, tactics, maintenance, coordination. We learned to move as a unit, to fight as a crew. Your tank crew became your family, closer than brothers. You lived together, fought together, knew each other's voices in the dark. My crew was good. Best in the company, I thought. Lieutenant Barnes was our tank commander. West Point graduate, smart as hell, actually cared about keeping us alive. Johnny Martinez drove. Best driver I ever saw. Could put that Sherman anywhere you needed it. Sergeant Williams loaded the gun. Farm boy from Iowa, strong as an ox, could load a shell faster than anyone. And Rodriguez was our bow gunner. Quiet kid from New Mexico who never missed with the .30 caliber. We shipped out to England in August 43. Trained there for months, waiting for the invasion. D-Day plus 30, we finally landed at Normandy. Drove our Sherman off an LST onto Utah Beach and into hell, fought through France. The hedgerows, the breakout, the race across the countryside, lost tanks, lost friends, lost count of how many German vehicles we destroyed, how many towns we liberated, how many miles we covered. By the time we crossed into Germany in September 44, Mama's Boy had taken 3 hits that should have killed us and somehow hadn't. We figured we were charmed, lucky. We were wrong about that, too. Germany wasn't liberation. Germany was invasion. And the Germans defended their homeland like cornered animals. Crossing the German border felt different. In France and Belgium, the civilians waved at us, brought us flowers, wine, kissed us in the streets. They wanted us there. The Germans didn't want us there. The Germans wanted us dead. We crossed the border near Aachen in September. The city was a fortress, every building a bunker, every street corner a kill zone. The Germans fought for every inch, and they had better tanks, better guns, home field advantage. Our orders were simple: push east, break through the Siegfried Line, drive toward the Rhine, end the war by Christmas. Everyone believed it. 6 months, they said, maybe less. The Germans were finished, on the run, barely holding on, just a matter of time. That's not what it felt like from inside a Sherman. The first time we encountered a Panther, we were moving through a village about 10 miles inside Germany. November, cold as hell, frost on the ground. We were lead tank in the column, always a bad position, but someone had to be first. Lieutenant Barnes was in the turret, scanning with his periscope. Movement, 2 o'clock, 200 yards. I traversed the turret, peered through my sight, saw it. Panther tank, angled behind a stone wall, hull down, waiting. Gunner, identified, Panther tank, Barnes said, voice calm, like he was ordering breakfast. Identified, I confirmed him. Fire when ready. I centered the sight on the Panther's glacis plate, fired. The gun roared, the tank rocked back, the shell hit dead center and bounced off. Just bounced off the front armor like a rubber ball. Shit, Williams muttered, already loading another round. The Panther fired back. The world exploded. The hit sounded like God's hammer coming down. The tank rang like a bell. Something in the turret shattered. Electronics, probably. Smoke everywhere. My ears were screaming, blood running down from my nose. Reverse! Reverse exclamation mark Barnes was yelling. Get us the fuck out of here! Martinez threw the tank into reverse. We lurched backward, tracks churning. The Panther fired again, missed by inches. I saw the shells scream past the turret. We got behind a building, safe, for now. Everyone okay? Barnes asked. We were, somehow. The hit had struck the front glacis at an angle, deflected up and over. Another inch lower, and it would have penetrated, killed Martinez and Rodriguez instantly, probably killed all of us. We can't penetrate that thing from the front, I said. Need to flank it. I know, Barnes said. Martinez, take us around. Use the buildings for cover. We'll hit it from the side. We spent the next 20 minutes playing cat and mouse with that Panther. Moving through rubble, using smoke, trying to get a flank shot. Finally got one. Clean hit to the side armor at 100 yards. The Panther brewed up, black smoke pouring from the hatches. We killed it, but it took 3 Shermans to do it. The other 2 in our platoon had moved up to engage while we flanked. One of them, Betty Lou, took a hit. Commander and gunner killed instantly. That was the first Panther. We'd face dozens more before we reached the Rhine. The worst part about fighting in a tank isn't the fear of getting hit. You get used to that, or at least you pretend to. The worst part is the helplessness. You're sealed inside a steel coffin, vision limited to a few narrow periscopes, can't hear anything over the engine, completely dependent on your crew. When things go wrong, they go wrong fast. No time to think, no time to escape. We learned that in December. The Bulge. The Germans launched a massive counteroffensive, caught us completely off guard. Suddenly, we weren't pushing into Germany anymore. We were fighting for our lives in Belgium. We got orders to move north, help stop the breakthrough. December 18th, coldest winter in 50 years. Everything frozen solid. The roads were ice. The tank was ice. We were ice. Breath freezing inside the turret, fingers so numb you could barely work the controls. We were moving through a forest. Tall pines, snow on the ground, visibility maybe 50 feet. Perfect ambush country. Everyone was tense. Rodriguez was chain smoking, filling the tank with cigarette smoke that mixed with engine fumes and made everything hazy. Eyes open, Barnes kept saying. They're out there. They were. The 88 hit us before we even knew they were there. 1 second, we were moving through the trees. Next second, the world was sideways, ears ringing, Martinez screaming. The shell had hit the right track, blown it clean off. We were immobilized, dead in the water. And somewhere out there was a German anti-tank gun with a perfect shot at our flank. Everybody out, Barnes yelled. Bail out, now. I threw open my hatch. So did Barnes. We were climbing out when the second shell hit. It punched through the side armor, right into the crew compartment, right where Williams was standing. The ammunition cooked off. Everything inside that tank became fire. Instant inferno. I was half out of my hatch when the fireball erupted, threw me clear, sent me tumbling into the snow. I rolled, patted out flames on my jacket, looked back at Mama's boy. She was burning, flames shooting out of every hatch, black smoke boiling into the sky. And I could hear screaming. Someone was still inside. Someone was burning alive. Rodriguez got out, fell out of his hatch, uniform on fire, rolling in the snow. I ran to him, helped beat out the flames. His face was burned. Hands were burned. He was crying, moaning. Martinez didn't get out. Neither did Williams. The driver's hatch was too close to the fire, and Williams had been right on top of the ammunition when it went up. Barnes tried to go back in, tried to pull them out. I had to tackle him, drag him away. "They're gone," I was screaming. "They're gone." We lay in the snow and watched Mama's boy burn, watched our home, our protection, our friends just burn. The smell, God, the smell, you don't forget that smell. They gave us a new tank 3 days later. Different crew. Lieutenant Barnes was gone, promoted, transferred. I don't remember. They made me tank commander. Said I had experience now. Experience. That's what they called watching your friends burn to death. The new crew were replacements. Fresh from training, hadn't seen combat. A kid named Peterson was my gunner. 19 years old, blonde hair, couldn't grow a proper beard. Driver was a guy named Collins, older, maybe 25, quiet. Loader was Jackson from Mississippi, talked too much, nervous energy. And my bow gunner was Harris, barely 18, lied about his age to enlist. They named the tank Thunderbolt. I didn't care what they called it. It was still a Sherman, still a death trap. We rejoined the push in January 45. The bulge was over. The Germans were retreating again. We crossed back into Germany, pushing toward the Rhine, toward the heart of the Reich. The fighting got worse the deeper we went. Every village was defended, every hill, every bridge, every crossroads. The Germans were running out of fuel, out of ammunition, out of hope, but they kept fighting, fighting with everything they had. We lost tanks constantly, not even to other tanks anymore. By then, German armor was scarce. We lost them to Panzerfausts, those handheld anti-tank rockets the Germans gave to everyone. Old men, young boys, everyone had a Panzerfaust. They'd hide in rubble, in cellars, wait for a tank to pass and fire. Harris took one in the face. Panzerfaust came out of a basement window, hit the bow machine gun mount. The explosion blew the hatch off, killed Harris instantly. His body was still in the seat when we pulled into the rally point that night. We got a new bow gunner the next day. Kid named Murphy. I didn't learn his first name. Didn't want to. By February, I wasn't Michael Torres anymore. I was just Corporal Torres, tank commander, 3rd Armored Division. I didn't think about home. Didn't think about college or my parents or the life I was supposed to have. I thought about survival, about keeping my crew alive for one more day, one more mile, one more town. We crossed the Rhine in March. Engineers built a pontoon bridge, and we rolled across in a massive column, hundreds of tanks, thousands of vehicles, pushing into the heart of Germany. This was it, the final push. The end was near, except the Germans didn't know they were beaten, or they knew and fought anyway. We kept pushing, through the Ruhr, through small towns with names I can't remember. Every day the same routine. Mount up, move out, fight, lose somebody, keep moving, stop thinking, stop feeling, just operate the machine, be part of the machine. By April, I'd been in 6 different tanks: Thunderbolt, Lucky Strike, Fireball. Others I've forgotten. They all burned the same. The crew I started with in Germany, Peterson, Collins, Jackson, Harris, they were all gone, dead or wounded or transferred. I had a completely new crew by the time we reached the Elbe River. I didn't learn their names. We found the camp in mid-April, wasn't even looking for it. We were pushing through a forest somewhere in central Germany, orders to secure a road junction, when we smelled it. Death, but different, worse. Not the smell of battlefield dead, bodies that had been rotting for days. This was industrial, deliberate, mass death. "What the hell is that?" Peterson asked. "The new Peterson, the third gunner I'd had, or was he the fourth?" "I don't know," I said, but I had a bad feeling. We followed the smell to a gate, barbed wire fence, guard towers, buildings beyond, no guards. They'd run when they heard us coming. We rolled through the gate and stopped, bodies everywhere, stacked like cordwood, piled in ditches, scattered across the ground, hundreds, maybe thousands, so thin they barely looked human, just skeletons wrapped in skin, and the living. God, the living were worse. They came stumbling out of the barracks, these walking corpses in striped uniforms, reaching for us, crying, speaking languages I didn't understand, barely able to walk, barely alive. A concentration camp. We'd heard rumors, seen reports, but seeing it, smelling it, standing in the middle of it. Peterson threw up. So did Collins. Jackson just sat there with his mouth open, tears running down his face. I climbed out of the tank, walked through the camp like a ghost, saw the ovens, saw the gas chambers, saw rooms full of shoes, of glasses, of hair, saw what human beings had done to other human beings. A man grabbed my arm. Prisoner couldn't have weighed 80 pounds. He was speaking French, I think, crying, kissing my hand, thanking me. I couldn't speak, couldn't do anything but stand there. That's when something broke inside me. Some last piece of humanity I'd been holding on to. It just snapped. We'd been fighting for 2 years. I'd watched friends die, had killed men myself, had seen towns destroyed, civilians caught in crossfire, soldiers on both sides torn apart by high explosives. I thought I'd seen everything war could be. But this wasn't war. This was something else, something worse. This was evil, pure, calculated industrial evil. And I'd been fighting the people who did this. For 2 years, I'd thought of German soldiers as just enemy combatants, men like us, just on the other side. Some of them probably were, but they were fighting for this, protecting this, making this possible. I got back in my tank and we kept moving, but I was different. We all were. There was no mercy anymore, no hesitation. When we encountered German soldiers after that, we didn't take prisoners, didn't want to, didn't care. They surrendered and we shot them anyway. They waved white flags and we kept firing. They were children, old men, didn't matter. They'd built that camp, they'd all built that camp. I still don't feel guilty about it. I probably should. The war in Europe ended May 8th, 1945. VE Day. Everyone celebrated, drank, danced, fired weapons into the air. The Germans had surrendered. Hitler was dead. We'd won. I sat in my tank and felt nothing. They asked for volunteers to go to the Pacific to finish the fight against Japan. I volunteered immediately. Didn't want to go home. Didn't know how to go home. What was I supposed to do? Go back to college, study engineering, pretend the last 3 years hadn't happened? But they dropped the bombs in August and Japan surrendered and suddenly the whole war was over. No more fighting, no more purpose. Just go home. I landed in New York in October 1945. My parents were waiting at the dock. Mom cried. Dad shook my hand, said he was proud, asked about the war. It was fine, I said. We won. What else could I say? Tell them about Williams burning alive, about Harris and his face blown off, about the camp, about the bodies, about the things I did after I saw that camp? They wouldn't understand. Couldn't understand. Nobody could unless they'd been there. I tried to use my scholarship. Enrolled at Texas A&M in January 46. Lasted 3 weeks. Couldn't sit in classrooms, couldn't focus on lectures about physics and mathematics while my brain kept playing the same scenes over and over. Martinez screaming, the smell of burning flesh, the prisoner kissing my hand. I left school, started drinking, Bounced between jobs, mechanic, construction, truck driver. Got married in 48 to a woman who thought she could fix me. She couldn't. Nobody could. We had a kid. I wasn't much of a father. How could I be? I was still in that tank. The nightmares never stopped. Every night I'm back in Mama's boy. The shell hits. The ammunition cooks off. I'm trying to get out, but the hatch won't open. I'm burning, and I wake up screaming, soaked in sweat, my wife crying, my kids scared. My marriage fell apart in 53. Don't blame her. She deserved better than a drunk who couldn't hold down a job and couldn't sleep without pills. I've been working as a janitor at a high school for the past few years. It's good work. Quiet. Nobody asks questions. The kids don't know I was in the war. Don't know I killed men. Don't know what I've seen. Sometimes I walk past the gym and hear a door slam, and I'm back in the tank waiting for the 88 to hit us. Sometimes I smell the cafeteria and I smell the camp. Sometimes I see a kid with blonde hair and I see Peterson asking what that smell is. People thank me for my service, call me a hero, call me part of the greatest generation. I'm not a hero. Heroes died in France. Heroes died in their tanks. Heroes are buried in cemeteries across Europe with white crosses marking their graves. I just survived. And survival isn't victory. The doctors at the VA call it combat fatigue, shell shock. Now they're calling it something else, post-traumatic stress. Doesn't matter what you call it, it's the same thing. Your brain breaking under the weight of things it was never supposed to see. They give me pills. They don't work. Nothing works. I'm 41 years old and I've been dead since December 1944. Since the day Mama's boy burned. Since the day I watched Martinez and Williams die screaming. Since the day I walked through that camp and saw what we'd been fighting. The boy who wanted to go to college, who thought war was adventure and glory, he died in Germany. What came back wearing his skin is something else. Something that smells burning flesh when he cooks dinner. Something that can't sleep without nightmares. Something that still hears Martinez screaming. You ever been inside a burning tank? I'm still inside. Still burning. Still trying to get out. The hatch won't open. It never opens.